Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anika and today I've got another episode of my knitting vlog where I am knitting my wedding dress. The first episode was super fun, super easygoing, me explaining the process. However, in this episode I run into some problems. So stay tuned. If you want to see what problems I ran into, how many times I had to frog, because it was more than one, and whether I managed to figure it out or just rage quit. If you're interested in any of that, stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so this is really hard to show, but I'm just trying to get the measurement to line up. So I've laid out my measuring tape on top so you can see how far apart the two pieces are supposed to be, and this is what the overlap's gonna look like. I'm using my iPad to weigh the one side down because I have this panel still on the cable on circular needles that are wanting to curl up quite a bit, whereas this panel I have on a stitch marker, so that's a little bit okay. But yeah, that's basically what it's looking like. I'm gonna try somehow to hold it up against me. It's just me right now, so that's gonna be a little bit difficult, just to see that it's kind of sitting where I want it to sit, kind of under my bust. And once I'm happy with that, I will be ready to join right here, and then basically build like the little panel and connect it in the round. So we'll see how that goes next. While I'm doing this, cats are busy play fighting in the sun, and the dog's just looking at them like, boys, what are we doing here? I'm trying to sleep. Okay, so I have this window here that is a mirrored reflection on this side, and I'm just gonna try to show you kind of what this is looking like. Surprisingly, it's just holding up with laying against my t-shirt right now, so I'm able to like hold it up and see sort of where it's gonna lay. And that looks really good. That's laying kind of exactly where I wanted it to hit before I start. The shaping obviously looks a bit wonky with it being on the circular needles right now, but after that I've measured out the distance from the top of the panel to the top of my shoulder so I can figure out the straps. It is going to be a little bit more modified because I'm really short and my torso length is shorter than the size that I'm knitting. So the fact that my row gauge is like a tiny bit smaller is actually working out in my favor. I'm not having to do the math and it's just kind of lining up so far. So hopefully it remains that way moving forward. But yeah, that's what it's looking like. I'm happy with this, so I'm gonna go ahead and join these two panels together now. Okay, so now this is going to be the tricky part. It's a new skill for me. So basically I have to hold the stitches of the left side panel behind my work and knit them both together. Never done this before. It's kind of spooky, but there is a video tutorial that's linked, and that seems to be super helpful. So let's see how this goes. It seems just kind of like a knit two together, except you're knitting one from the front needle and one from the back. Let me see if I can show you a little bit closer here. Down to the last few stitches here, and actually joining the two panels together on two needles was not as scary as I was making it out to be. I don't know why I thought it was like super complicated, but it really wasn't. And oh my gosh, they're connected, they're joined together, which is really exciting. And basically, well, it's hard to see now with my sweater on, but that's what it's looking like, and I'm really excited. I'm actually getting so excited. I'm really happy with this overlap, actually, like the location of it. I didn't want it to be too far apart. I wanted a little bit more coverage here, so this actually looks perfect, and it's sitting exactly where I want it to sit. So next up, I think I'm going to be picking up stitches to join this in the round, and yeah, I'll meet you there. Not me getting stuck after that last clip I just filmed where I was so excited about figuring out a new skill, and oh my goodness, I thought it was gonna be harder than it is, and I figured it out. Girl, no, I got stuck literally right after that section where it talked about joining in the round. I guess you have to do a provisional cast on using Judy's cast on. What is that? Who is Judy? Who is she? I don't know her. So I had to look that up, and then I still couldn't figure out how it all connected together. So I read it over like 5 times. I tried to Google. I figured out Judy's cast on. I know who she is now, but I couldn't figure out how to connect everything. So I decided to put it away, work on another project. I literally knit a whole sleeve in the process and still couldn't figure it out. I had to put it away for the night, come back to it this morning. Looking at it this morning, still can't figure it out. I reached out to one of my friends on Instagram, Carla. Carla, you're a real one, because she looked over that section and like in 2 minutes was like, oh yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. So if it hadn't been for her help, I would probably still be stuck. I would probably figure out something else to do and like screw it up, or I have no idea. It's been, wow, what a roller coaster. Like literally, if everything was making sense and then everything was not. So yeah, now that I understand what on earth I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna pick it up again and hopefully work on the waistband. hopefully I don't screw it up. Big hopefully it all comes together. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I've come to the end, and this is kind of just like hanging out on its own. So I think now what I have to do is join from here. If I can get my stitches to not get caught.
2 hours later.
Okay, let's try that again. So I think that now I should just be able to join in the round here. I kind of want to add a stitch marker just in case, because I think the instructions say to do that, and I've read them a couple of times and it's still confusing to me, but I don't know. We're just gonna toss a stitch marker in there, it won't hurt. And then just join this way and knit across the front. I think that makes sense because this way, this is now gonna be like connected. Do you know what I mean? And then these stitches that are on hold are gonna make like the flap. This is upside down, hard to show you, but it's gonna make the flap that like folds over the back where your elastic goes through. So I don't know. I'm gonna do this for a bit. Yeah, the pattern mentions at some point where a good place to put a lifeline is, and you better believe I'm gonna be putting in a lifeline because I'm anticipating a little bit of a disaster. Hopefully not, but I mean, yeah, you never know. Okay, I'm gonna keep knitting this. Supposed to connect in the round, and we'll see where we're at from there. Okay, catch you in a bit. Is this right? I think so. Right? I should be connecting in the join here. I think so. Let's do it. Let's do it, and we will see what happens. I think so. She's also looking a little, you know? I'm small, but I'm not that small. I don't know. Hopefully, as I keep progressing in the round, this will start making a little bit more sense. Because I've just gone ahead and joined it now. And I understand why they wanted me to put the stitches on the back on a stitch holder, because this is not this is not working right now. Like the whole giant ass cable on the bottom, that's just hanging out and like curling and curving and making life so much harder than it needs to be. Yeah, once I reach the end of this part here, where I'm back to the front, I am definitely going to restart this or put the stitches on a stitch holder. What am I even saying? The Roomba just randomly started to. I don't know what's going on. This is the state of delusion we live in here, thinking that things are gonna be easy and work out, and then they're just not quite working out. Yeah. So I was right about it looking wrong, because if I can try to show you this, that's what it looks like. And as I'm knitting in the round, this is growing towards this direction, which is wrong. It should be growing towards that direction. And when I picked up the stitches, I picked up on this needle on this side, and I think I need to go on this side. So I'm gonna have to frog and redo this section. Yeah, hopefully it's right the second time around. Yeah, I don't know what's going on right now. Here's my emotional support frogging animal while I frog 3 rows of this provisional cast on and redo it. A little bit irritated, but I'm glad I'm finding out now rather than after I knit all the recommended rows and then figured it out. But yeah, this is gonna be me for the next hour or so. Okay, so it's an hour later and I have finally frogged what I did with the help of Aries sleeping in my lap. So we're back to square one. This is where we started. I think where I went wrong was that when I picked up my stitches, I picked up on this side, so on the right panel side, right? If you look at it this way, this is the right panel. I picked up on this side. What I need to do is do my provisional cast on this side, where the left panel is. So when I'm working backwards, I'm going around this way. And then my provisional cast on stitches are here and they grow in this direction, right? Like up this way where the waistband's supposed to go, because it folds in half inwards. Where I was going wrong is my provisional cast on was growing in this direction, which is wrong. So I think I'm gonna take a break and eat something, maybe work out or go for a run, because I'm a little bit frustrated by this right now and I don't want to be picking up stitches and attempting this again while I'm frustrated. So I'm gonna put this away for a bit and I'll come back when I'm ready to try again. So I've definitely come to the crux of this pattern for me, which is Miss Judy's magic cast on and picking up stitches to attach to the panel here. I don't even know how many times I've redone this now. It seems like 10 times, like not even joking. So we're gonna switch what we're doing here a little bit. I am gonna just put this aside and I'm gonna put my needles on a really long cord. I'm gonna pick up like 5 stitches and just mess around and see the direction that they're growing in. That's what's kind of messing me up right now. Once I kind of understand the way this provisional cast on works, I think I'll be better able to figure out how it's supposed to connect together. I've texted like so many people trying to figure this out, like I have no freaking idea. So instead of continuing to do something that is not working and hoping for it to work, I am just going to try with a smaller number of stitches and hope to figure it out that way, because this is extremely frustrating right now because I feel like I should be able to figure this out and I just can't. I just can't for the life of me figure this out at all. So I'm just gonna mess around with like 5 stitches and see how it goes, because yeah, this whole like counterclockwise twist, it makes sense theoretically, but I'm just not able to apply it at all right now. So I'm gonna mess with this for a bit and see what I'm able to come up with. Catch you in a bit, and hopefully I've solved this problem by then. We'll see. In a very interesting series of events, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is I'm back on track. I've connected in the round. I've got my provisional cast on stitches just hanging out. Things are good. The bad news is that I realized when I finally did this for what seemed like the millionth time that I had it right the first time around. Like, it wasn't wrong. I just had to like give it a chance and keep knitting and see that it's actually going to work out properly, and I didn't do that. I got impatient. I thought it looked wrong, but that's literally because I've never done a provisional cast on before. So instead of being patient, I decided, nope, it looked wrong, I'm gonna frog it, and then commenced basically over the span of 6 hours an intense saga of trying to understand properly how to do Judy's magic cast on. And Miss Judy was not helpful. Like, it wasn't working. It wasn't making sense. I think I picked up on the left side of the work and the right side of the work. I had my second needle at the bottom, at the top. I did everything, like every which way that you could possibly do it, and finally landed on what I had done in the beginning based on what Carla had said. So all that to say, for the last 2.5 hours, I've just sat here redoing and undoing a provisional cast on, only to land at what I had done in the first place. So yeah, maybe that's just moral of the story is to listen, or maybe not listen to my gut instinct and have a little bit more patience. But here we are. At least I have some really helpful cats here. who have been hanging out with me while I try to figure out this provisional cast on saga. Is the next day. I finished doing the waistband with the pearl row that acts as the fold. The next thing here is a 3 needle bind off, which luckily there's a video for linked in the pattern that the designers put in, which is super helpful. So it sounds like you basically go along the bottom of the band where you started knitting and you pick up stitches on the wrong side, so the purl bumps, and then you hold those onto a needle. I'm using a DPN, and then you hold those 2 needles together and you use a 3rd needle to like pick up the stitches to knit them together and then knit off or bind off. This is literally like an all-consuming effort for me. Like, it's taking every single brain cell of mine because I don't want to bind off too tightly. I don't want to accidentally drop a stitch. I don't want to pick up in the wrong section. So it's taking me a long time. I originally just did like 5 stitches on this side, which is really hard to see here because I wanted to make sure it's turning out right, especially after the adventure that I had yesterday with frogging everything that I did to cast on the provisional cast on, and then to find out that I did it right the first time. So I'm being really cautious, but I think that's not a bad thing. So I'm just gonna sit here for the next little while and basically pick up my stitches and do the bind off. Not very interesting. I literally don't even have anything on TV. Like, this is taking my entire undivided attention because I don't want to mess this up at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll catch you once I've completed that part. I've spent the last, what seems like 2 hours working on the 3 needle bind off, and this is what it looks like. Kind of hard to show. Essentially, that's what it looks like. The bottom little purl bumps here is where I imagine I will be picking up the stitches for the skirt. So all I have left now is this back section here where I did the provisional cast on, and I will say I did modify a little bit. The size I'm knitting calls for a certain number of stitches, and I added a few extra just because it was looking a little bit small. I don't know, probably wasn't, but I just thought it wouldn't hurt to have a bit of extra room there. And I will be adding elastic into this part here, so if it is like a tiny bit loose, I think that the elastic's gonna fix that problem. So I think it should be fine. I just have to figure out how it wants me to, how the pattern wants me to graft those stitches there. So once I'm done that, it's gonna be onto the section with picking up stitches for the skirt, and that's the longest part. That's gonna take me quite a while, so I'm happy to have figured this piece out here, because it was kind of complicated, or maybe I made it out to be more complicated than it needed to be. But after this, fingers crossed, I hope it's smooth sailing. It's all done. So I've bound off the bottom and the provisional cast on, and that's what the front looks like. It's just flipped up right now, and it goes all the way to the back, and then we hold these stitches on hold because that's how you're gonna get the elastic in there. So I am gonna try this on, which is gonna be kind of hard because there's no straps, off camera, because this isn't that kind of channel, and hopefully I didn't screw up by adding a few extra stitches. So I will go ahead and do that off camera, and then next up I'll be casting on the stitches for the skirt. Exciting. So it's been around 5 days since we last spoke, and that's when I had finished casting off the waistband. I was so excited. I was gonna try it on. It was gonna fit perfect. I was gonna be so happy I cast it on extra stitches. Girl, no. I was wrong. I was very wrong. That was definitely a mistake. The pattern is written with a certain amount of stitches per size for a reason. I should have known this. Yet I chose to ignore it, cast on extra stitches, bound off to try it on, tried it on, and it was way too big, like 2 inches too big. I did buy some elastic, and I tried to thread that through to see if it would cinch it in, but it's just like bubbling over weird because there's a whole extra inch, almost 1.5 inches of fabric. So I had to rage quit and put it in a timeout, and finally it's Sunday today. I'm ready to pick it back up, basically frog everything that I did up to the point where I've joined the front panels together, and then do Miss Judy Ma'am's cast on again. And this time I'm actually gonna cast on 1 size down number of provisional cast on stitches. I reached out to a couple of people. One of them test knitted this pattern, and she mentioned that in the test knitters group, some people had different tension for their provisional cast on, which led to it being a little bit looser, and they had to size down. So I think that's the case for me. I think I'm not very used to provisional cast-ons. I've never done them before, pretty new to it. So my tension definitely is a lot looser than my normal knitting. So with that said, I'm gonna take the afternoon to frog everything that I did, hopefully rip back just to the point where I've joined my 2 panels together, and then go through this whole provisional cast on journey all over again, hopefully with better luck this time. I'm ready. I'm no longer irritated. I learned a lot through that process, and I'm glad to be frogging it right now rather than just hoping and wishing that it was magically gonna end up being okay and cast on for the skirt, because it would have been too late at that point. All things considered, it's really not so bad to be frogging at this stage in the game, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'll sit here, put on something to watch. Aries is ready to go. He's making biscuits, he's getting cozy, he's super ready, I'm super ready. Let's do this thing. I've recently started listening to audiobooks, and this is the one that I'll be listening to while frogging my waistband. Got my coffee, I've got my water. Is that too many beverages? Not at all. Aries thinks maybe it's too many beverages. I disagree. We're ready to go. About an hour later, and we're back to where we started, right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo Judy's magic cast on, to do the provisional cast on, and then join in the waistband once again. I'm gonna end the video here because I feel like this is a good way to or good place to stop before I get back into doing the waistband. So hopefully at the start of the next episode you'll see my progress on the waistband, and hopefully this time around it works out. So thanks for joining me this time for the second episode in this series. I hope this is entertaining or interesting to you, or that you've been watching along while you're knitting something yourself. If you are, please let me know in the comments below what you've been working on while you watch this video. Thanks again for joining me. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.